This week's episode is brought to you by Sinusoid Pro Audio Couture. If you're looking for a great cable with a 100-year warranty, head on over to sinusoid.com.
Sinusoid Cables. They make cables.
And smiles.
You did it. I got you to do it.
Yeah.
I tricked
just
you.
Giving up.
This episode is also brought to you by Nanolog Audio.
Yes, sir. Check out Ryan's demo of the Nanolog Audio Wave Function.
Hopefully I've got the demo up. The plan is to have it up by the time this episode is live. They sent us 2 of these things.
Yeah.
That means we're going to give one away.
Yup.
We don't know how we're going to do it yet, so stay tuned. We'll have rules for whatever this contest is up at some point, and it's going to be a whole bunch of fun, and everyone's going to like it, and then someone's going to win a pedal.
Yep. You can check out their stuff at nanologaudio.com.
And I got to say, if you're going to win a pedal, this is a good one. This is a fun pedal to have around. Hey, this is Ryan.
And this is Steve, and you're listening to 60 Cycle Hum, the guitar buying, selling, trading, modding, fixing, breaking, reviewing, playing podcast.
All right, we're back at it. Back in the saddle again.
Back in the saddle.
I'm back.
Is that actually a song?
It is a song. It's Aerosmith, right?
I don't know.
Pretty sure that's Aerosmith. I feel like we've had this conversation before on this show.
Probably every time.
Probably like every third episode we bring up that song.
Every time we say that we're back in the saddle, we bring up that song.
Yeah, which is like all the time. It's such a common phrase.
Yeah.
What's new with you, Steve? Yeah, me too. I got nothing. You want to get just straight into the episode?
Boom.
Bam. Let's get into it.
Yeah, this first ad is sent to us by Tyson Carey Brinicombe. This is a L. Degas guitar. It says 60s L. Degas Strat, modified body, dragon paint with case. $200. This couldn't have originally been a Strat body.
It looks like it was originally a Strat, but then yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't know, because it looks like the butt end is a lot fatter than it should be.
Yeah, it's really weird.
It's so mangled, it's hard to tell, honestly. This is your classic 60 cycle hum bottle opener guitar here.
Yeah.
Where someone cut just an awful shape into it, where if it was the correct size, you could definitely open a bottle with this thing. Mm-hmm. How do we even describe the shape?
It looks like a friggin' spaceship.
It's a Strat body, but the top and the bottom horns were cut off, almost going for like a Vox like teardrop shape.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of something Ovation would have done.
Yeah, it's kind of Ovation-y, but then like a giant like earwig pincher shape is cut out from the butt of the guitar, where like the bottom strap button would usually be, almost in like a weird like insect-like flying V sort of setup. But it looks like the body was extended out from the armrest in some way, like someone added wood in some sort of creative fashion to make it fatter, make it wider. And then, of course, kind of a standard Strat pick guard here, with a 3 pickup loadout with 3
there's
knobs.
There's just a whole lot of purple.
And a Strat output jack. Yeah, let's get to the finish. It's like this metallic purple pink spray paint with a green dragon on it.
Yeah.
At this point, you're probably already looking at the photo that's in the episode description. This thing is bananas.
Yeah.
It's just totally bananas.
BANANAS.
I knew you were going to do that. I knew it.
It's just a reflex.
I got to call my bookie. He's got to pay out for me now that you did that, because I bet money on you.
A friend of ours posted a thing the other day that was like, what are phrases that you hear that automatically trigger songs?
Right.
And I think that's definitely what
bananas.
Saying like, this is bananas.
That's cool, I guess.
Yeah. Well, what was yours? Was yours stop?
I forget what mine was, but then after I said it, I thought of like 3 ones that would be better.
Yours was like 911.
911 is a joke, Steve.
And
so anyways, this thing has like a like an arrow-shaped headstock with more of this pink-purple paint on it.
I was very confused by
Maple
the thumbnail
fretboard.
of this because I thought the star was part of the guitar.
It looks like the person who was behind the mangling of this guitar was also behind a custom guitar wall hanger that honestly looks like it's probably bad for guitars.
I mean, as weird as this guitar looks, like I feel like if this was in like Parliament,
oh yeah,
like you'd just be like, yeah, whatever, no big deal.
oh, that was another cool moment from NAMM. I know this isn't
yeah.
a NAMM recap, but Bootsy Collins was walking around, and as we were leaving Saturday night, we were walking by like a tour bus, and all of a sudden Bootsy Collins and his whole crew unloaded right in front of me and started walking the direction I was going. I was literally an arm's length away from the back of Bootsy Collins, and I was like in the middle of his crew.
Yeah.
Like his posse.
It's like we were part of his crew.
It was pretty nuts.
I'm
But yeah, I could
sure
totally
I'm at least 13% funkier now.
I feel a lot funkier.
Yeah, but you were already like 0%. So
Yeah,
for you to go from 0 to 1% is an infinite.
It might not even
increase.
be 1%, but I'm definitely like 1,000 times funkier than I was before. But this guitar, I could definitely see someone playing within vicinity to all those guys,
Yeah,
whether it be
yeah.
Bootsy Collins or George Clinton, any of the Parliament Funkadelic. This guitar would fit right in. Pretty weird. I bet it plays just as fine as this guitar did before it was mangled. Was there a price on this? $200. Hell no. Hell no.
You wouldn't do $200?
No, hell no.
How do you know it's not awesome?
Because it started out as an off-brand Strat anyways. Whatever brand El Degas is, I've never heard of it. He claims it's from the 60s. I have no idea. I really doubt this is from the 60s. I'm going to guess late 70s at best.
I mean, El Degas was like an old brand. I don't know how
I've
old.
never heard of it.
Well, I was looking it up, but you distracted me.
Well, keep looking it up, Steve, and we'll find out together. This might be, if it is like an older guitar, this might be worth picking up for like an even hundred, just to harvest kind of vintage pickups out of it.
Yeah.
If those are the original pickups.
It looks like they were from the 70s.
Yep, that was my gut. My gut reaction is that this came from a 70s guitar, just based on kind of like the way the fretboard looks.
Right.
It doesn't, like I'd expect a 60s Strat knockoff to have more of a harder edge, look to the edge of the fretboard.
Yeah, I see what
And
you're
like a thinner fretwork to it.
Yeah.
This is a 70s thing.
Yeah. All right. You got anything else on this?
I don't. It's ugly. Go look at the pictures in the description in the episode description. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's all on Imager. You can find it. Do we want to tackle this topic? We went really long last week. We're going to go short this week just because
maybe
we want to get out of here.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Nick Steinhofer says professional pedals versus amateur pedals.
I think this is a fun question just because I've never thought of it in that frame before. Like, I think I could have a much easier time telling you the difference between like a professional amp and like an amateur amp, or a professional guitar and an amateur guitar, just because there's a line. And, people can play all sorts of different stuff on stage. Like Jimmy Page used to play old Silvertones and Dan Electros almost as a statement of like, I can play anything and make it work.
Right.
Even though technically those were student level guitars at the time. They have a cult following now, but they were department store guitars.
Yeah.
But you're not going to see really anyone doing that today. There's definitely like a price point and quality point difference between a professional guitar
Well, I think
and like a student level guitar.
The first question you kind of have to ask is like, what is an amateur pedal? Is that just like a home build?
Well, that's what I'm getting to, is like pedals are different in the way where as long as they actually function.
Yeah.
Does it matter to anyone? Like, there's all kinds of pedals that people would consider like, oh, these are, bottom shelf, bottom of the barrel, like cheap discount bucket pedals, until they find out, oh yeah, the Edge has one of these in his giant rack like unit that he uses for tours, and he's been using it on just one song for decades now, and is part of his signature sound because it functions and it gets him exactly the sound that he needs for that part. Like, I think pedals are different in that way. Where like a guitar, you're interacting with it in a more hands-on way where it has to feel and has to give you performance
Right.
in a tactile sense. And then the sound is more up for debate. I mean, you could get usable sounds out of crappy pickups or a guitar made out of all sorts of materials, but if you're not comfortable playing it, I think that's really the edge between a professional and a student level or amateur guitar.
Yeah.
Where like a pedal is more like pedals live in an area where they are meant to degrade the original tone of the instrument.
Right.
And if you find a cheap one that does it in an interesting way, who cares? The only question is it roadworthy or not?
Right. And to go along with that, like, I guess the angle I was thinking about it from is a lot of people, because they like doing it themselves, they like kind of like the process of it, get, really solid sounds out of like BYOC kits.
Oh, totally.
Which effectively, like, if you're not making a living off of building and you're just buying a BYOC kit and putting it together as an amateur, then you are making amateur pedals.
A literal amateur pedal.
So one of the things along those lines is like if you're building something, then that is like amateur, obviously.
Right.
Then whatever, like if it works, it works. One of the things that's kind of cool in that sense is like even if you're like seeing it on your local Craigslist or whatever, what like that circuit history is. So at least you still have like some kind of conceptual starting point. It's not usually a complete like crapshoot. I mean, I don't know. I guess I've never seen it. It probably exists somewhere. Like somebody who's like, oh, I'm not really a professional builder, but I got this mostly original circuit, where somebody's starting with a tube screamer and then making a bunch of tweaks to it, and
right.
in that case, like it's an original amateur pedal. But I think big picture, like even if you're doing stuff on VeroBoard or whatever, like you're getting ideas from that you can source back somehow, where usually you can say like, oh,
right, this started as a fuzz face, or this started as a phase 90, or or as a memory man.
It's actually kind of interesting, and granted, like I think because my work wasn't as clean as it could have been, but do you remember years ago when I tried to build that blend for you? And did you when we put it in the bigger case, did it work?
I don't think it works. I couldn't figure it out. I should hand that to you tonight and be like, you.
I don't have time to.
Okay, we won't do anything with it then.
But when we first attempted, so basically, I was trying to build and at this point, honestly, like,
who cares?
Just buy one.
Yeah. Exactly.
But at the time when we were first talking about it, like, and I found that I could only find one company, and they had just started making it. So what it was is a blend, like a blend circuit, like a buffer blend circuit. If you're familiar with listeners with the, I believe the pedal is called the Mosquite from the company's called One Control, I think. The One Control Mosquite. Mosquite. Blender. That's what they're called. It's a blender. It's a wet to blend wet and dry effects. Apparently, it has a. There's one that's the Mosquite blender with BJF buffer. So basically, what it is a single knob blender. Well, shoot, even the one that
you keep saying blender over and over again.
I know.
Waiting for you to get to the next part of the story.
So actually, what's
Steve.
funny is the one with the BJF buffer version that sells on Reverb is like way bigger. Oh, it's got an expression out. That's why.
Oh, okay.
But it's like a full size box. Yeah. I definitely think if from the get-go I had tried to put that circuit in this box, I would have been able to do it.
Right.
But I was trying to put it into a finger enclosure, which is generally reserved for like tap tempos.
Yeah.
And it was just all
A
jammed
finger
up in
enclosure
there.
is pretty small to jam 4 jacks into.
Yeah. This was a simple one. They actually, there's no price on their website, but I think it was like $120 or something, or something crazy. But it worked a couple times at least.
I think it worked in the finger enclosure, and then it stopped working, and then you put it into the big enclosure, and I couldn't figure out which jack was which.
Oh,
Which is like
I think I just had bad labeling.
A lot of troubleshooting to try to figure out with 4 jacks. Like,
Right.
it's really hard to get it right.
I think I had bad labeling when I transferred it.
Right.
I think originally my labeling was clearer, so that's.
But I
probably
think I
all it was.
tried everything possible and I couldn't get it to work. So who knows? But that is an example of an amateur pedal.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what we're getting at here. Another amateur pedal is your ring modulator that has never worked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just bleeds, But yeah.
It bleeds, like blood comes out of it.
No, it's
like a Ash versus the Evil Dead situation.
Oh, gosh, the thing with that one is even when it's in bypass mode, you can still hear the ring mod.
Oh, really?
Like it's super faint, but it's
that
got some
is an
kind of
amateur pedal.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the risk of it. That one's super cool. I need to make some time.
Can we just say there's no commercially produced pedal that is an amateur pedal? That's the heart and soul of this. Like, you could buy a Lion by Washburn plastic case pedal or a Behringer plastic case pedal.
Yeah, that's a professional pedal.
If you have a use for it in your professional rig, in your professional set, in your professional recording situation, that's a professional pedal. Its use determines whether or not it's professional. Well, now, if you're in a bedroom and you're not doing anything but recording little jams and you don't make any money playing music, that all your gear is amateur because you're amateur. And there's nothing wrong with that. The entire industry is built on hobbyists, honestly.
I wanted to say your gear is amateur just because you're an amateur player. I mean,
I know.
I don't feel like that's what the whole...
That's not the spirit of the question.
I mean, in that case, Earthquaker is a super amateur brand.
Well, every brand is amateur if you think about it that way. But what I'm saying is that the use of the equipment is amateur or professional.
Right.
Like, as long as it functions, anything could be amateur or
professional. I guess I completely read this as if I'm on...
is there any pedal that a professional would never use?
No, I mean, I read this as you go on Reverb and you just search for reverb pedal and you get what I had for a bit, which was a 1-knob Belton brick.
Okay.
Kit or whatever that somebody put together. That's an amateur build. It looked decent. It was simple, but there's no branding associated with it. It's just something someone put together and then sold for $40 or whatever. That's an amateur pedal. It's not something that somebody's building professionally as their full-time job or even as their part-time job. It's just somebody who is doing a thing. Right.
I read it more as use of the pedal. You read it more as production of the pedal.
From a use perspective, I mean, the Dan Electro Tuna Melt was on John Foreman's board for a while.
Sure.
Does that make I guess that's a professional pedal for him, at least back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So that's a cool enough thing, but I wouldn't limit it that to anything. At the same time, there's pedals that you see on people's boards where you're how do they even make that work?
A lot of loop controllers, Let's jump into the next ad. Let's rip through these. What
is the next ad?
It's the Rhoney.
Oh yeah, Rhoney.
My little
Rhoney.
Oceana?
Yeah, this is a Rhoney Oceana. I think it's Oceana. This is in Mooresville. This guitar is actually on
Mooresville. I'm gonna guess that's in Texas.
I think it's in Indiana.
Mooresville, Indiana. That sounds about right too.
I
have no idea. We're not a geography podcast. We don't know anything about where things are.
A dream instrument of mine became available, and I'm posting my Rhoney Oceana to try to raise funds. Price is firm, and if you know what this is, you know what an amazing deal that is. Mahogany set neck, all nitro one-off Sahara Sparkle Burst, white binding, mastery trim and bridge, Roadhouse P80s. It is gorgeous.
I don't remember ever seeing this finish before,
Yeah, me neither.
and it is stunning.
It's like metallic too. I don't know if you can tell that in
It's
this
like
photo.
a burst from like a light, like fatty salmon color
Yeah.
to a bright red. And then if you're familiar with this model guitar, there's a really thick beveled edge on it. Mm-hmm. And that beveled edge fades from that bright red to this like burgundy, like black cherry mist.
Yeah.
That is, the whole thing is just stunning. I think this is the best finish I've ever seen on a Rhoney before. And he did great finishes. I would super be seen on stage with this. This is stunning. Rhoney's come up used every now and then. It stopped being a brand for a while because Paul Rhoney went to work for Veritas. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like he's starting to work on a new brand again for himself.
Yeah,
so
it's called Danger Brand.
Danger Brand. Look it up on Instagram.
I believe. Is that right? Danger Brand?
I think so. It's something like that.
So
I've still got.
Check this finish out.
Oh God, it looks
So
so
if
good.
you look for a Rhoney on Reverb.com, this guitar is $1,800 for local pickup. It's for $1,875 plus $100 shipping on Reverb. But maybe you can walk them down and be like, hey, I tell them I heard about your ad on 60 Cycle Hum, the guitar podcast, and they said that you have it for $1,800 on Craigslist. So I was wondering if you would honor that price on Reverb.
Oh man, I bet he would on Reverb, but it just looks stunning. I think this is a prime example of a Rhoney. Like if I was gonna pick a Rhoney to like buy right now, this would be on the list for sure. Just incredible.
Man, you just said Rhoney like 5 times.
Hey, man. Hey, cut me some slack, Jack. See, I got some funk in me. That was a little bit of a little funky slang there, huh?
Oh, yeah.
What do they call that? What is jive? Oh, was I talking jive?
I'd rather not answer that.
I'm so white. But anyways, yeah, just beautiful. I think the price is totally fair.
Yeah, so
I'm sure he's losing a bunch of money on this.
the person who bought it?
By fair, I mean this is a good price for you, the buyer.
Yeah, it's tough because this is one of these guitars. There's a few Rhoneys on. There's 4 Rhoneys on Reverb right now.
It's hard to set a precedent with small builders.
Yeah, two of them are the Oceana. Is it the Oceana Supreme? I think was the model. Which is the Oceana that was the semi-hollow version. And then the 4th guitar on Reverb was the Oceana Junior, single pickup Oceana, and that one's only I think $1,200 or $1,300
only.
That's Bad Hand Tim's guitar has been up.
Oh yeah,
you know Bad Hand Tim.
Nope.
Bad Hand Tim.
Bad Hand Tim.
Bad Hand Tim. He was at Cowerfest like every year.
And he has a bad hand.
He has a bad hand. He always like wins a guitar. He's like
I probably know if I saw him.
He's like the winningest guy.
I don't recognize him by that name.
Okay.
But
his store on Reverb is Bad Hand Tim.
A Tim by any other name is, because it smells so sweet. I've got the Rhoney Little Stinker still.
Yeah.
That guitar is fantastic. And that was supposed to be like his budget line.
Yeah.
So this is a guitar not from his budget line.
I need to get that guitar from you tonight, I think. Maybe.
Oh, what are you going to do with it?
Play it.
Well, damn, Steve.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Dude.
Yeah, take it home with you. Go play with it. Yeah, I'm just enamored with this guitar.
How tore up are the strings on it?
It might need a new set.
All right.
Yeah, no big deal. But anyways, we don't usually cover guitars that we think are fantastic. Usually we're talking about junkers on here.
Yeah.
And weird things.
This thing's super cool.
Yeah, I just needed to talk about it. All right, next topic.
Yeah, it's Tavo. I don't know if you have the ad on hand to actually read it.
I screen grabbed it.
But basically,
no big deal.
It says,
well, let me read it. I've got it right here.
Ryan's going to read.
Why do you spend $2,000 on pedals while playing crap $500 amps and Squier guitars? And I think he was asking it a little bit facetiously, but I think it's a fun topic.
Yeah.
Do you have any first thoughts on this?
Yeah. I don't think my pedal board's worth $2,000.
Mine definitely is. Mine probably exceeds that right now. I've got a lot of stuff on there. But my first initial reaction to this was, yeah, a pedal board can be worth $2,000, but the vast majority of people didn't spend $2,000 all at once.
Right.
They spent $200 at a time. And if they've got a $500 amp, that's what they had money for at the time. And they probably have a Squier guitar, which is, like another like $300 or something like that. We're talking of, someone who has a $2,000 amp. It doesn't mean that they spent $2,000 all at once. It means they spend a couple $100s at a time every now and then, probably because, like most guitarists, our paychecks are about that big.
Right. Well,
so you get a paycheck and then you can buy something.
So the other thing to go along with that is like pedal boards, like you said, they're kind of built like piece by piece, and also like if you think about each part of a rig as like singular function,
right?
Then it all just comes down to how many things you want to do. So I mean, in theory, like if you're buying like higher end pedals, basically like you are buying like to get to 10, like say.
Well, there's brands out there where if you buy 4 pedals from that brand, you hit $2,000.
Right.
But then there's other brands out there where you really got to work to spend $2,000.
So say you have like a mix of high and low end stuff. So you probably are averaging like $150 a pedal. So you get 10 pedals in and you've got a $1,500 pedal board. But each one of those pedals is doing like a singular thing. So if you think about each part of your rig as a whole doing a singular thing, electric guitar is doing one thing.
Right.
Like it's effectively maybe like, yeah, you've got different pickup settings and whatever, but it's a bass tone, like a bass level tone generator.
Not bass guitar, but
like a bass level, like a basic tone generator.
Basic,
That's
there's
guitar.
the word. I was like, how's Steve going to communicate what he's trying to say without saying bass?
Your amplifier is a basic tone amplifier.
Right.
Like it's
your foundation amplifier.
Yeah, so it's taking your generated tone from the electric guitar and it's amplifying it. So if you think about a pedal board that way, like each unit is its own brick. So your distortion pedal is, your gain tone generator, and you've got a delay tone generator, and whatever. Right. And sometimes you want like to stack those things together. You can't stack electric guitars, but you can.
Fender did it.
But you can stack.
2018.
You can stack, pedal sounds together to make different pedal sounds. But each one is doing a different thing. Your electric guitar is just going to make electric guitar sounds. You only really need one way to generate that
each one
at a time.
Each one of these things is a Lego piece. It's a building block.
Right. So, you pay $200 for the red piece and $300 for the green piece and $50 for the yellow piece. And your tuner is the clear piece that's on the side that like you think is really cool and you probably spent way too much on. I don't know.
Yeah.
Definitely
and
should be thrown out a brick wall. And then you keep buying new
volume pedals, and they all do the same thing, but they just feel a little different.
Yeah. So you
have to upgrade your patch cables because your old patch cables are not in style, and you want to get those new patch cables that are in style. Sinusoid slivers, go check them out.
All right. So thanks for no. So I think that's kind of like the answer to. I think is one, like you said, like it's piecemeal. You're not spending like a chunk of like a big chunk of money at a time. You're buying a thing here and a thing there, and you're slowly like maybe upgrading piece by piece.
I think a lot of people would love to spend big money on guitars and amplifiers, but like I said, it's a big chunk of your paycheck, and a lot of musicians are kind of check to check as it is. Well, you have to have a different life plan set up to go drop $3,000 on an amp.
I think the other side of all of this is that a lot of guys now are taking these $2,000 or $1,500 or whatever rigs that they've put together over years, selling everything off and just getting a Helix.
That definitely happens these days. I don't know if that's a good investment in the long run. Maybe it is.
Well-
When we first started doing this show, I was hypothesizing that that digital wasn't a good investment in the long run. But in the entire time, the 4 years of doing this show, we still haven't seen Strymon pedals drop value like I thought they would.
Yeah.
I think maybe digital's finally come into its own where this stuff retains value better than it used to.
Well,
'Cause
I think it
like
depends.
pods have fallen through the floor.
So I was going to say is I think it depends on the digital because like as you know the Axe FX 3 comes out now the original Axe FX and the Axe FX 2
Yeah.
are going to lose value, or like the Helix LT is going to affect the value of like the Helix. Well, the
Right.
Helix LT is a smaller version.
And that doesn't typically happen with analog effects. No one goes like, "Oh, the new Tube Screamer is out. Now my old Tube Screamer is worth $50 less."
Right. Well, I mean, that's going to kind of like vary, and you have a lot of different competition there. The only thing that really like hurts the value of like a first version of something is if the same company comes out with a V2. You know, if
But with analog effects, even if there's a V2, the V1 is still desirable if it is good. It didn't lose anything. It's just the V2 has a slightly different flavor. Where it's like you go from Max Effects 2 to 3 and the processors are a billion times faster.
Right,
There's
right.
There's more functionality to it and this and that.
I think there's kind of a yes and no there.
We are on a totally different topic now.
No, we're on the same topic.
Okay. If you say so, Steve.
I agree with you to an extent on that. But I do think like, I mean, with just recently when Walrus came out with a bunch of, or was about to, or had already released a bunch of V2s, they blew out their V1s.
Sure.
And the used value on all those V1s, I guarantee you took a hit. Like, you know, you're not going to sell an Iron Horse V1 for $110 when you can get a brand new blowout at $99. Like that's going to wreck the used value.
Yeah, I guess so.
But as far as like the digital stuff goes, like I think with the Strymon stuff, they did the single engine driver for like a delay or whatever so well that until a competitor comes along and knocks it off, specifically, like you're not losing it. Like the thing that's different about those is something like the Timeline or the Flint basically came out and created a broad industry standard. But they're
I
also
think the
specific
key-
in that it's a delay or it's a reverb, and
Right.
delays and reverbs have been digital for decades.
I think
they've held value because the RV3 has a similar value now that it had when it on the used market like 10 years ago.
I think the key here, the question you have to ask is, does it still sound good? Because the digital stuff that hasn't aged well in the past, it doesn't age well because like people start to realize like this doesn't really actually sound
right.
that
So
good.
I think the question is now is like if you take your $2,000 pedal board and you sell it off, are the digital multi effects options right now good enough that like this Line 6 Helix is the last pedal board you'll ever buy, you know?
Right.
And ultimately, whether or not the $2,000 pedal board is obsolete really comes down to whether or not people think that those sound good enough that, you know, it's the last piece of gear they'll ever buy. It's
But
like the stone.
sure.
It's like the Stonefield bass of pedal boards.
The soul of this question is, why don't people spend more money on their amp and their guitar? Let's attack it from that direction.
Right, and so I think from that it's about single unit purchasing.
Right.
And people who are more patient might do that, but like you said, like if you can say your income is such that you have the expendable room to spend $200 every 2 months. So basically over the course of a year, you can put together a $1,200 pedal board one piece at a time. So every 2 months you're buying something new to mess around with. But if you want a $500 amp, you now have to save money for 3 straight months before you can get an amp.
But in this scenario, the $500 amp is the crap amp.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is you have to save for 3 months just to get the crap amp.
Right.
So if you want like an equivalent, like say $1,000 amp, you are saving your money for almost an entire year. You
Yeah,
have to save your
totally.
money for 10 months
Yeah.
in order to get, $1,000
So
amp.
you can have fun exploring a new piece of gear every 2 months, or you can hunker down and wait a year or something to be able to afford one new piece of gear to have fun exploring.
Yeah.
And that when you break it down like that, like for people who are our age and younger who are exploring gear the way that it's being explored now, like you can kind of get a picture of how that works. Another thing to think about is that people use amps in a very different way now
Yeah.
than they used to. Like, I think kind of, I don't want to call them old timers, but the old timers,
That's ageist.
they grew up in a time where the way you got great tone is you got a Marshall full stack, and maybe there was a fuzz pedal in between, or a treble booster, or a wah, and then you had like the best Les Paul or American Strat you could buy. And now it's all flipped because the tone was just in being loud and like working components to their limit, like just superheated with electricity and current and like just everything like just being extreme, and that produced very rich, saturated tones. That's not really the trend in music now. That's not the style of music people are making. Like music isn't oriented around these giant searing stadium sounds. Now it's more like, cascading delays and light overdrives. And when the fuzzes are there, they're there for texture and effect. They're not the entire song. And because people have really leaned into pedals, our needs for amps are very different. Like, a good amp these days isn't a giant stack that you're going to run all the way to 11 to hit full tube saturation.
Right.
A good amp now has a lot of headroom for whatever you're doing with your pedals, but then isn't necessarily high wattage. And it doesn't need to be super expensive because you're not saturating the components. You just need it to, represent the frequencies that you're trying to put into it.
Right. So you have a bit of a focus shift there. That makes sense. I think you have overall, I think with the rise in import manufacturing, you also have a lot for like the weekend warrior player. You have a lot more options.
The quality of
for like
cheap
budget
guitars
for
now
budget amps. So we say like
is phenomenal.
We say like a $500 amp, but a $500 amp is a PV Classic 50.
Hey man, that's
a Hot Rod Deluxe.
That's two Boss Katana 50s, and I've been gigging with a Katana 50.
That's two Boss Katana 50s, and you have $100 left over.
Exactly.
To buy a pedal.
To buy half a Katana 50. You got 2.5 Katana 50s for $500.
Is that two Katana 50s and a Katana 25?
Yeah, something like that. One of the mini katanas.
If you put them all together, you got a Katana 125.
Yeah. No, but like, there are cheap amps these days that just sound fantastic and are great pedal platforms. And there's not, unless you want something really specific, there's not a whole lot of reason to spend a ton of money on an amp. I mean, I'm currently drooling over the amp by Milkman Amps, which is going to be 700 Street, I think.
Yeah, actually, Tim, like a week ago, well, like the day we're recording, which was now over a week ago, put up the pre-order for that, I believe, at $699. So they are on sale right now.
But that's not a complete amp. It doesn't come with speakers, so that's like not fully
sure. But if you're running direct,
after you add a cab, you're easily into $800 for that thing.
Yeah. Oh, we should have talked about full range frequency response.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But I think it really just does come down to a shift in values.
Yeah.
For what people need from their rigs and how people are playing now. And like we said, the realities of people buying to have fun. Like every couple months, they get themselves a treat and they're exploring something new.
Yeah.
And it also comes down to it's a lot harder to ship amps and guitars. It's a lot easier to ship pedals and resell them after you bought them and do a bunch of experimenting.
It's also a lot harder to hide amps and guitars.
That's 100% true. Like if you buy a new guitar every 2 months, your wife is going to notice That might be fine with her. It might not be. But it's also a storage issue, which is something I've been running into. Too much stuff around here. It's a lot harder to store guitars and amps than it is pedals. So
You just need a Doug Cower rack.
for all the amps and guitars, I
Yeah,
guess they
just
hold
for the
guitars.
guitars.
But where do he needs a rack for amps now?
That's what you got a garage for. All right. Before we hit this last ad, let's take a moment to thank our sponsors this week. Nanolog Audio. They make the wave function drive.
They also make a fuzz and a distortion pedal that has the same, like, switching between various clipping circuits, two of which have their very special nanotechnology that uses quantum tunneling to clip your signal. If you want to send your signal into another dimension and then back again to get that perfect overdrive, distortion, or fuzz tone,
I'm not sure that's what.
check out Nanolog.
I'm not sure that's what quantum tunneling is.
You use Nanolog pedals, it's going to send your tone into another reality where it's going to have to do good deeds for the person that it's taken over for. It's like quantum leap joke.
Oh.
This episode is also brought to you by Sinusoid Cables. They make cables.
And smiles.
And they make this show possible, and that's a big enough reason to support them. All right, let's do this last ad.
This last ad was sent to us by Aaron Abubo. This is a G&L ASAT Telecaster 1987. It's on Reverb. I don't know what happened to the price.
Yeah, we don't have the full screen grab. I
But
guess.
the description just says, yes, somebody did something to the finish. Some may love it. Some may hate it. It plays good.
Yes, they did do something to the finish. This looks like a nice ASAT to me. It's a shame that someone did something to the finish.
Yeah.
But it's not the worst.
It's not. I mean, it would kind of depend on how
Someone
it feels, I guess.
definitely attacked the finish with an orbital sander. Like a handheld orbital sander. And they didn't take off They didn't take off the pickguard or some of the hardware. So it's kind of splotchy around everything.
Yeah, you could say that.
But there's something kind of like wild about it in like a nature sort of way. Like you could play this like around like wild animals on a safari and it would look like it was at home. Like there's an animal print thing going on with it. It's weird. I don't hate it. It's definitely a very unnatural relic.
Yeah.
But then you can tell it's not someone trying to do a relic. It was someone who got bored and had an orbital sander and made a mistake and left
Made a very large
and
mistake.
left the guitar in a playable condition. You could buy this guitar and take everything apart and then continue to strip it, and I think it would look good. Like it doesn't look like he attacked the sides.
It doesn't look damaged.
too
The
much.
neck, the part of the neck that you can see in the picture looks like it's in pretty good shape.
And it's got those cool G&L style pickups, like the big fat single square pickups. And it's got the really beefy old style G&L bridge with black hardware. It looks classy. I think if I was to pick this up, I would take the neck and all the hardware off. I would finish the sand job on the top to clear the black paint, and then I would just leave it. I'd put it back together
All
and
right,
I would leave
let's
it.
put this out there then. How much would you pay for this?
Did you find the original price or something?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Oh, man. What would I pay for this thing? I would use the damage as a bargaining chip, for sure.
Okay.
I don't know what this would go for in good condition. I'm guessing 600, 700 for an 87.
I would say G&L ASATs, their pricing doesn't really vary that much. I would say $1,000 is the lowest you would expect to pay for an old G&L.
All right. So if $1,000 is the lowest for a good condition, use G&L. I would probably want to be in the 400s for this. Maybe high 400, 475.
All right. What if I told you that this person is still asking $1,000 for this?
No. I would say no.
I'm trying to work out some fancy math. Let's see. Hold on. I'm gonna say that from what I can figure out,
Is it like a out of country price or something like that? You're trying to do the conversion?
no, I'm doing something really fun.
Well, tell me about it, Steve.
I'm going to say that they're asking about $900 for this.
Is this like, are you making that up or they actually
No,
are?
okay. So if you look at
Fill me in, dude.
at Reverb and you're looking at different prices, like for a $700 guitar on Reverb, it says you can use a firm to buy with monthly payments as low as $62 a month. So that's for a $700 guitar. That works out to like 11 months of payments, basically $62 a month. It's probably like a 12-month plan is what it is. So
Why are you bringing payment plans into this?
because that's the only pricing indication we have on the ad is where it says as low as $80 a month. So what I'm saying is I'm looking at that and trying to figure out
'cause we don't have
what their payment terms are. So if it's a 12-month payment plan, that's $960.
Now, you said
that
this
would
thing
pay.
you were doing was fun. It turned out what you were doing was math.
No, I said I'm doing something fun with math.
Okay.
I thought that's what I said. That's definitely what I meant. I
right.
had a good time.
Guys, rewind the show. Figure out which of us is wrong. I thought I heard Steve say he was doing something fun.
It was fun for me.
Okay, so what did you figure? You figured the price was $900?
Yeah, somewhere around
No, there's no way.
$900.
There's no way.
There's another one, another G&L on here that they're asking. Someone's asking $2,000 for it. Payments are $176. That's again like 12 months of payment. It's actually 11.3 months.
So they're asking $2,000 for a similar one.
Yeah,
Similar
well,
year?
no, not a similar. I don't think it was a similar.
Maybe I just
year.
don't know the true value of these guitars when they're in pristine condition.
Well, it doesn't really matter what the true value of these guitars are in pristine condition. It seems like they're all over the map.
Sure.
Like I said, the lowest one in good condition, which had some like chipping that just looked like aging,
right.
was $1,000. This person's asking like maybe $900 for something that's been like you said, they took an orbital sander to it.
If they want $900, what they have to do is they have to take it to someone and pay $250 to have it refinished.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it.
Yeah. Well, if you had it refinished, do you think that would actually like increase the value of this, or would you still say like
If it was a good refin, I think it would.
right? Okay, I can agree.
You
with
can't do a home refin on this and expect it to increase the value. But if you took it to a pro and had them do a good refin, which I priced a decade ago a refin, and it was like $250. It might be more now.
that. So you're saying pro refin versus amateur refin?
Exactly, and that really makes all the difference in the tone of your guitar, whether it's a pro refin or amateur.
Yeah,
and it really shows the audience if you mean business or not.
Let's get down to business.
Let's get out of here, man. Tell me about this song.
This song was sent by Bruce Kumkwat. You said it was for his friend's band. They're called Ourselves Alone. And this song is called Stiff Jazz.
I listened to this. I thought it was a lot of fun. Oh, he sent me notes on it, and it was just the same as what you have. So,
cool.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, this song was a bunch of fun. It's very mathy, very busy, and like kind of like quick and shreddy. It's a fun listen. I think everyone's going to like it. All right, thanks for sending in. Can't talk. Thanks for sending in the song, Bruce, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Later.